Okay, 2.9, sampling distribution for the difference between two population proportion. Okay, if P hat 1 and P hat 2 are each approximately normally distributed with mean P1 and P2 and variance P1 times 1 minus P1 over N1 and P2 1 minus P2 over N2 respectively, and they are different, P hat 1 minus P hat 2 also normally distributed with, okay, mean or mu equals to P1 minus P2. Variance will be equals to P1 times 1 minus P1 over N1 plus P2 times 1 minus P2 over N2. And then standard error is just the square root of the variance. Okay, so yang ni yang penting lah. That you have to understand. Okay, the mean will be P1 minus P2 and the variant is P1 Q1 over N1 plus P2 Q2 over N2. And the square is and the standard error we just square root. Okay, so this one also can be written as P1 Q1 over N1 plus P2 Q2 over N2. Okay, so then we have the sampling distribution of sample proportion as follows. Okay, like this lah. So apa yang kita akan gunakan nanti, we're gonna use the standardized variable z, okay, which is P hat 1 minus P hat 2 minus P1 minus P2 over square root P1 1 minus P1 over N1 plus P2 1 minus P2 over N2. Okay. Now let's take a look into example 13. We want to construct the sampling distribution for the difference between two proportions. Okay, so how to write or how to construct the sampling distribution? So for example, for A, the P hat 1 minus P hat 2 will have normal distribution with mean equals to P1 minus P2 lah, 0.5 minus 0.6, and the variance, okay, the variance will be equivalent to 0.5 times 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5 over N1, N1 is 10, plus 0.6 times 1 minus 0.6 is 0.4 over N2, N2 is 15. So this is how we construct the sampling distribution. Okay, B. Actually, you also can construct P hat 2 minus P hat 1. Doesn't have a problem. Okay, so for B, P hat 1 minus P hat 2 will have normal distribution with mean equivalent to 0.72 minus 0.25, and then their variance is 0.72 times 1 minus 0.72, 0.28 over N1 is 20 plus, okay, 0.25 times 0.75 over 35. Okay, very simple, right? But the thing that you should carefully is the value of P. Okay. Okay, see. So the distribution for P hat 1 minus P hat 2 is, okay, P1 minus P2, 0.24 minus 0.16. Okay, this is the means, and then the variance is 0.24 times 1 minus 0.24 is 0.76 over N1. N1 is 100 plus 0.16 times 1 minus 0.16 is 0.84 over 200. Okay. Let's move into example 14. Okay, it has been claimed that the proportion of computer literacy among students in public school is 0.7. Public school is 0.7, while the proportion among students in private school is 0.55. Okay, so kita ada we have the information regarding the public and private. Okay, so the proportion P1 for public is 0.7, P2 which is private equivalent to 0.55. That means that their Q or 1 minus P is equivalent to 0.3. Q2 or 1 minus P2 is 0.45. Okay, and then we have to investigate this claim, a random sample of 50 public schools. So N1 we have 50. Okay, 50 public school, 60 private school. Okay, N2 is 60. So this is the information that we have. So the question asking you, what is the probability that the proportion of students in private school who are computer literate will be at least 0.6. Okay, but before we answer the question, let's construct the sampling distribution first. Okay, so the construction of sampling distribution is P hat 1 minus P hat 2 will have normal distribution with mean equivalent to 0.7 minus 0.55, and their variance is 0.7 times 0.3 over 50 plus 0.55 times 0.45 over 60. Okay, now we can answer question number 1. What is the probability that the proportion of student in private school? Private school is P2. So we want to calculate probability of P hat 2 at least 0.6. At least is, the notation is more than 0.6. So we just focus on private lah. Okay, so this actually for number 1, the question asking you about one population proportion. Okay, tak apa. So P will convert it into Z, standard variable Z, greater than 0.6 minus, okay, so which is private is 0.55. Okay, over their variance will become P times 1 minus P, 0.45 over 60. Don't forget to square root. Okay, so finally we will get Z is greater than 0.78, and then you refer for your table number 3. We want to find the probability of Z greater than 0.78. So just straight away taking the value from the table, we get 0.2177. Okay, so actually what I want to highlight here is usually student will make mistake here. Okay, so make sure you take the value of P. Okay, population proportion, that's why we take 0.55. Okay, not the value of sample proportion. Okay, sometimes student will use the value here is 0.6 times 0.4 over 60. Okay, so this is wrong answer lah. Okay, remember you should take the value of the population proportion. Okay, now let's continue to number 2. Okay, number 2 asking you to find the probability the proportion of public school students who are computer literate will exceed the proportion of private school by at least 0.2. So the question asking you to find the probability of proportion public exceed private, means that P hat 1 minus P hat 2, okay, exceed by at least more than 0.2 lah. Okay, so next what should we do is we will convert the into the standard normal, it will become z greater than 0.2 minus, okay, so 0.7 minus 0.55 is 0.15 over 0.7 times 0.3 over 50 plus 0.55, 0.45 over 60 square root. Okay, so finally we will get z is greater than 0.55. And then look at your table number 3. Looking for the probability of z greater than 0.55. Straight away, just taking the value from the table, we get 0.2912.